Alright guys, welcome back to Nifty Network. Today we have a G35, G37 Sedan. You may notice that the car is on the lift already, but I'm going to teach you how to take the core support off. We started it inside to show you how to do like the front bumper and the hood and the fenders and basically everything that's missing we did how-to videos on. I'm obviously going to walk you through it, so let's get started. First things first, we are going to pop the hood. And then when I am doing this, I will I'll pop all these off first, and then I'll go under the car and I'll hit all the ones on the front that hold the under shroud and the front of the fender liners on. And then once those are off, I'll do the ones right here where the fender and the bumper connect. And then the last ones I'll do, we'll get to it, but there's a bolt that goes under here. It's kind of hidden and it's kind of a pain. So I do that one last and make sure that the whole make sure the whole bumper is loose and ready to come off. So we'll do that. Alright, so now that we got these the little push pins out on the front bumper, we're going to lay down on the ground, and you're gonna see a bunch of 10 mils right here. Like there's one. So basically get all those 10 mils off that hold the front of the bumper on, and then we'll get the back of the fender liner pulled back and do those ones that connect the fender to the bumper. There's going to be one little pop clip right here that we have to take off. You got to pop that loose, and then it'll allow the fender liner to come back, and then you'll have full access to what connects the bumper and the fender. So once you do that, you'll see that this has a lot more play, and then your bolts that you need to get to are right in that little crack right there, and there's two 10 mils that go up. So there's that one right by my finger right here, and then the one farther in. Both of those 10 mils got to go. And we'll come to this other side. Okay, so same thing as the other side. We're going to have one that's kind of far in there. So we got that one. And we got that one. And then these have kind of like a little snap clip on them. If you just kind of tug on it a little, it normally comes out. There we go. And then lastly, so basically the whole bumper is loose right now. The bottom's loose, the top's loose, and then you're gonna feel some resistance in this area. So you're gonna want to get your other clip remover, and you're gonna want to go on the underside of the rubber just so it doesn't rip. So pop that up. There's two right here. Pop that up. And then there's going to be one on the fender right here. And I'll just fold this kind of out of my way. Like that. And you're going to see, I don't know if you can see it, but see at the end of the clip remover right there? There's a 10 mil. So you got to take that off. Don't let that hide from you because you'll break your bumper mounts. So we did that side. And same thing for over here on the passenger side. Go under the rubber. Okay, so once you do that, Just make sure everything is kind of loose. And then when I grab the front bumper, I'll always grab it from the center, just so it comes off smoothly and you don't put too much pressure somewhere. Okay, so now we are going to do the headlights. There is, I believe, five or six 10mm bolts that hold this on. So we'll zip that off. So there's one. Two. Three. Four. And there should be one. Yeah, there's one right up here. So there's 5 10mm bolts that take that off. That should loosen up the headlight. And then we'll grab a flathead and we will basically just spin the headlight up, kind of reach under it, and you're going to see a little tab like that. What I like to do is I'll put the tab in between both plugs. Just give it a little pressure and twist. And basically the plug just pops right out. And then you don't have to worry about breaking anything. Same thing for the other side. There's going to be 5 10mm. So we'll start there. And then we'll go right here. Okay, so that'll be loose in there. And then on this side, there is a little clip, basically, that is going to be hiding. It's kind of hard to get to. This is part of the headlight. So if you look, okay, yeah, so right there, you'll see that harness, and there's a zip tie around that. It's a factory zip tie, but you have to clip that in order to get the headlight out. So if you move the windshield washer neck out of the way, you'll see, I'm trying to show you. Okay, so you'll see the zip tie right here. It is kind of a pain to get to, but it is right between the windshield washer neck and then the bolt for the air boxes. So if you just go in that way, you'll be able to get a little pair of cutters in there and cut that zip tie. Okay, so just like that, that's all you have to do is clip that zip tie just like that, and the bumper or the the headlight will slide out forward. So then once the headlight is out that way, you're going to get your flathead again. So you can just rotate the headlight 180 like that. I'll kind of stand under it to hold it. And you'll see the plug. So basically, that's the male side of the plug and this is the female side of the plug. So if you put the flathead right where you press down, you just go like that, you'll feel it click down, and then just open it like that. And then it slides right out. And I like doing that because nothing gets messed up. Like if you use like pliers or whatever, you have a chance of like sliding off here and grabbing the wires. But yeah. Alright, so now that we have the headlights off and the front bumper off, I brought it outside and put it on the lift so that if any fluids spill, then it's better to spill out here. We'll still clean it up, but I'll do a quick little rundown of how I do it. First it's the crash bar, then it's this upper piece, then I'll take the intakes off, then I'll take the coolant reservoir off, I'll take the side headlight brackets off, and then I'll drain the Freon, and then I'll drain the coolant and undo the power steering and undo the transmission lines. And basically that's just a quick rundown. I'm obviously going to walk you through it, so let's get started. I'm going to start off taking all these 10s off. So you can just do that. There's a bunch of 10s, and then this is for your hood release. This is for your coolant. Basically every 10 that you see, every bolt that you see on the front end, you're gonna have to take it off to do the core support. So if you're holding a 10 or a 12, just rip every single one that you see. It'll save you in the long run. So now that this is loose, we'll pull this up. And then this coolant reservoir just slides straight up. Alright, so you may see me just like aimlessly chucking all the bolts and stuff that I'm taking out. All we're taking out is 10s and all we're taking out is 12s. And if there's a stud like that, clearly you're not going to need a bolt there. So just keep your 12s and keep your 10s in like two different jars. Like if you want to put your 12s right here and your 10s right here in a little jar. That way when you're putting it back together, you'll know that like 10s are there, 12s are there, and then it just goes back together. You'll either see something with a big hole or you'll see something with a smaller hole, which is obviously a 10. So don't just do this with the bolts, I guess. Try to keep it organized. And then I'll grab this plastic piece right here, and there's going to be a harness connected to it. So you're going to want to go to the front side, and these are your hood cables. So just pinch these little squares right here, push that forward. Come on. Okay, so now your hood cables are free. You'll be able to grab this piece and kind of rotate it, and then you'll see these clips. And there is actually a trick. If you grab a 10mm socket, it should fit right over these to take them off quicker. So instead of using pliers, you can just get a 10mm socket. Clearly you have one because you just took all the bolts off. So there you go. The little beauty cover is off. And then I'm going to take the center support piece off right here. Another 10mm. And then there's going to be two 10mm bolts up there. So this is loose now. And while we still have the 10mm on our gun, we'll just go over to the over to the headlight brackets and pop these guys off. Just because we're gonna have to eventually take those off. Come over to this side, and then there's also a cable right here, or a wire that's hooked up to the hood latch. So just pop the cable loose on the hood latch, and then feed the wire out of there, and undo that. Take that off, and we can unbolt this. And then we can get to the bottom of that and separate those. Alright, so now that we have like majority of the 10s taken care of on here, we'll pop the foam piece off. Pop the foam piece off right there. And then there's gonna be 12mm bolts and nuts inside of here. So get a deep 12. So there's 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, so once that's like that, that just pops out, and then you can remove it with your foam. We'll get the hood cable out of there. And we can just put this to the side. And then, while the 12 is still connected, we'll just unbolt the actual core support off of the frame rail. And this is just a little plastic piece right here that pops off. Put that to the side. I'm gonna go up with the lift.
Rolling.
All right, so we got those 4 out of here, and I'm just gonna work my way over. Like right there, I missed a 10. That's okay, because there's gonna be more 10s to take off. So just go through here. Okay, so now that this harness is loose, I'm gonna come over here and unhook the air conditioning condenser. We'll set that to the side. So with this part, you have to be really careful about Freon. The air conditioning stuff is very, very bad to breathe. So I'll put one of these tools down in the link below. This is basically an AC relief tool, and you hook this up right here. So make sure it's closed first, and then this has like a quick disconnect on it. So quick disconnect goes down on that, and make sure that before you release this, that this is on there, because you don't want to like start releasing it and then have this thing blow off. So make sure it's tight on there, and then we put ours in a bottle and then we just recycle it after that. So set your bottle up kind of like that. I have a hole in this so it blows out and it doesn't build pressure. Make sure to put the hole facing away from you. So just slowly crack the valve until you start hearing it open up. So once you see that happen, sometimes I'll grab like a rag and put it over that so that it doesn't spray all over the car. And the reason I do that is just because it makes it easier to clean up if you put a little rag back here on the relief spot. So yeah, once you hear it open, just kind of release it, and then go get a water, go get something to drink, because I know you're thirsty. Let that drain. Takes like a minute or two to fully release, and then we will separate the AC lines off of the chassis and keep going. So now that this is done draining, and I'm very hydrated now, take this thing off. Don't spill this stuff on you. It's gross. All right, so we got the AC drained. We're gonna just go through here and see if we missed any 10s or 12s. So right here, there's one. That's got to come off. That's got to come off. We got the 2 for the AC system. That's got to come off. And then that's good. That's good. Then we'll remove our windshield washer sprayer, our reservoir right here. And I like to do it so that there's still like 2 holding it on. But if you undo this top one, you can kind of get a little more clearance back here. So just unplug. There's a couple things you got to undo down here, like the sprayer motor, and that kind of just winds around, and then we'll have to pop that off right there. So that's all free, and then you're going to go on the underside now. Undo that one, and then there's one final plug that should not have came out like that. This guy's supposed to stay in there. Okay, so now the harness is loose. And the tab up top is popped. And if you're removing your washer reservoir, don't cut this like this. You want to pull it off of the bottom of the water, or the bottom of the sprayer. So you can kind of see it right down here. If you just squeeze this little cable and pull out on it, it'll come off, but it will also leak a bunch of fluid. So cap your finger on it, and then it sets you up nicely so you can just hold the whole reservoir. Then you pull the other 2 10s off that are holding it on. So that's completely free now. You're not spilling your windshield washer fluid everywhere. So you go somewhere and you can just let it drain. Okay, so now we still have the 10. We're gonna go over by the power steering cooler and undo these guys. And then there's a little bracket right here. In order to get the core support off nicely, it's kind of weird. If you pull back on this, see it right here? If you pull back on it, it's for the bottom of the intake. Just pull back and it'll pop right off. And then that frees it up so you can get this bracket off. Which then you can grab the cooler and swing it out of your way. And then last but not least, we'll pull all these 12s off. And the core support will be loose. Alright, so we have all the 10s and 12s. This thing should feel pretty loose. So everything's loose on there. I'm just going to undo the intakes now, because this little piece right here hooks onto the front of the core support. So I mean, you necessarily don't have to, no, it'll give you more room. You want to take your intakes off here, which also means you have to take the engine cover off, because there's a crossover pipe. So we'll get that out of the way. Pop that guy loose. Pop that guy loose, and now your intake should be loose, and the whole crossover pipe should be loose. Then we're going to get a flathead, or an 8mm. Whatever your choice is. I'm going to use an 8mm and just give those a little loosening on all four. And I like to do it so, like, obviously this is still plugged in on this side. I always just, if I'm holding the tool that has the 8mm on it, I'll just go from this side and then hit this side, because I know I'm going to have to anyways. Alright, so now that that's loose, just undo those little plugs on the MAFs. And to get this off without it ripping, I'll separate it from here and pull it up. So now that is out of your way. Then come to this side. Same thing, push that hose down the intake. Undo your MAF. And then, so that you can just kind of see, that gives you a bunch more room. And now you can undo these pieces that I was telling you about earlier. Just pinch right here, and that frees up this whole thing back here. Get that out of your way. Same thing on the other side. And this one actually has a little zip tie that holds it on. So just push it out of your way that way. That's all free. And then now, what I like to do is I'll do the AC line. So I'll teach you how to do that. I'll also link these down in the description below. These are just AC line removal tools. And on my kit, it is a green one on the top. So try to keep it kind of stationary on one side, and then you slide the tool in there, and then this just separates. And if you start to hear it hissing like that, just kind of step back, because there's clearly pressure in there, and you don't want to get hit in the face with Freon. Okay, so once that's loose, there's a little piece right here that kind of connects the two. Just separate that, and then get a flathead under it right there. You'll be able to pop this loose, like so. And then you're going to want to work right here. Pop that top part loose, and then pop that loose, and this will come off. And then this comes out oh so nicely. And then on the bottom one, you're going to grab the red one on my tool. So it basically just goes around it, and there's like a little spring ring in there. I don't know if you want to show them. See that little like ring? It's like a spring looking thing between the two pipes. Basically what this tool does is it pushes the ring out of the way so that you can pull the flared end out. And then once you have that off like that, come to the front of the radiator and just pop that up. Now we'll undo the actual radiator from the core support. So just spin those sideways, grab some needle nose pliers or normal pliers. Basically what that's going to do is allow you to move your radiator like this. And then what I'll do is I'll pull this forward just a little bit like that, because then it gives you a ton more room back here to work with. So you have these two automatic transmission lines that you need to deal with. There's obviously the big your coolant pipe, your lower and your upper. So we'll drain the coolant pipe and then we'll pull the fans out of here, and then that'll allow the radiator to come forward, and then you'll have the core support off. So let's drain the coolant right now. All right, so I'm gonna leave it at this height. It obviously, if you don't have a lift, it's not the end of the world if you can't get this here. You're just gonna be on the ground. So we're gonna go through and we're gonna take all the rest of the bolts off for the undershroud. Wow, somebody stripped that one. And the reason I'm holding it up is because I can feel and I can hear a bunch of like trash basically up there and debris. So I'm gonna try and take this off flat because I didn't want that to go in my eyes. So if you're under your car and you're taking that off, just be aware that stuff might fall on you. So that opens up this spot. Some people do this, some people don't. I found this to help me the most. I'll pull this metal bracket off right here, and the reason I pull this off is because the frame rail is still holding the core support on. So basically the coolant hose, the lower coolant pipe, is right above this. So when you take this off, it just gives you way more room. And I hate making a mess, and I feel like I make the least amount of mess when I do this. So there's 17s that go up right here, and then there's gonna be a 14 on the top and the bottom, 2 on each side. So just go right here, get the 14 loose. So there's a nut at the top as well. So okay, so once all 4 of those 14s are out and then the 17s are out, just grab a little hammer. We're gonna tap this forward. So tap that out and you'll see that now this clamp right here is super accessible. So I don't ever drain from right here because I feel like it makes more of a mess than draining from right here. So I'll undo this clamp and I'll put the coolant bucket under it and just let all of it drain out. All right, so most of these lower coolant pipes have like a squeeze clamp on it. This one has just a normal C clamp. So we'll just undo that. And then be careful if you are working under it, because this could spray on you. So I'll put this up as high as I can, kind of make the least amount of room for error. And then you twist. And then you'll feel it right when it's gonna go. And basically, if you look at the ground right here, you can see there's like no spill except when I'm dripping off my fingers. Normally, when you drain it from that thing, it hits the ground, it splashes and it sprays and it gets everywhere. So even though that's technically the draining point on the radiator, I don't like it. I feel like this works way better. And another reason why I don't like using this, so this is a plastic screw, bolt, whatever you want to call it. Either the Phillips head and that will strip, or the threads inside this will strip. So it's not like you have any chance of stripping this, because that's just a pipe that slides on. So it's a little safer in every single aspect, if you ask me. All right, so now that we have that draining, we have a little bucket under there still. I'm gonna reach under here, and I'm gonna pull off the automatic transmission lines off of the radiator, or the fan shroud. So they just slide in like that. And then now I'm gonna work on this harness right here, the harness and the fans. So we'll unplug this. So I'll unplug that. And then I'm not gonna touch the ones yet that have the zip tie attachment to the fan. I'm gonna do the one up here, because you can get to it if you just look in here. So that way, if you're reinstalling it, you're not gonna have to like re-zip tie it. You can just use the factory clips. So we'll pop that from that side, then we'll work our way down. And the reason I do this like this is because basically the frame rails are holding this steady for me. So yeah, I realistically could just cut these zip ties and then pull the whole thing off. But if you take these and you keep these factory clips, it'll make your life way easier when you're putting it back together. So just pop those clips out. So that's loose. And then the two that are on the fan shroud, 3 actually, are still there. We got one more on this side. And then I'll grab my 10mm side ratchet. Alright, so now we're going to take off the crash sensor right here. There's two 10mm. And then also the fan is held on to the core support with two 10mm as well. Okay, so now you can see that the fan shroud is completely loose. I'll kind of wiggle this to where you can feel that it'll come loose. And I'll take this and then get it long ways and bring it up so that I can get access to the clips in here. So you can take your 10mm like I was showing you earlier. I'll see if I can get it all the way out. You can basically take your 10mm and shove it down there and save the clip. So it's in this little pocket right here. And if you don't have a 10 that fits in there, just get a pair of needle nose pliers and squeeze down there and get that so that it doesn't break. So you can see that it's relieved out of there. Now you can kind of just watch it come through that way. So now that side's done, and you'll do the same thing with this side. These ones are a little bit easier to get to. So we got one right here. We got one right there. And then finally this last one, and then we'll be able to pull the fan out. So that last one is right here. All right, and then as you saw on that when I was taking this off, there's a ton of heat that goes through these things, and they are very, very brittle. So be careful when you're pulling these things out. If you're just prying on these things to get out, you're probably going to break something. I wasn't even pushing that hard on this, but this one did crack. So just keep that in mind. You're not in a race. Just take your time, and you're going to be putting this car back together. So try not to break too much stuff. That's like the whole reason why we're trying to save these clips, because you could just zip tie it back up, but it's not like the OEM way with the OEM clips. So just take your time, but it's not the end of the world if something does break. Like clip wise, obviously. Don't go cutting your radiator in half or something crazy like that. Okay, so now we have a ton of room on the front side, and we have a ton of room on the bottom, like in the back side, everything. This thing is loose as can be. We're going to pull the automatic transmission lines off. And those are another thing to be very careful with, because these are very, very fragile. You can literally bend this line without even trying to. So get that clamp out of the way. And you're going to reach down here. There's another clamp that is holding that line on. Alright, and then when you're taking these things off, I'll show you a tool that I have that I'll also put down in the description. So this is made for power steering lines, because power steering lines for some reason are just always super hard to get off. So what I found out helps me is I'll take a pair of pliers that has a little hole opening in it like this, and I'll hold on to the line. I'm not yanking on the line, I'm just holding on it, and I'm going to put these pliers in between it. And basically what this does is it separates. So I'm making an anchor point with my other pliers on this side, and then the line is going to sit on this side. So you just set that in there however it's going to fit nicely. And then just squeeze it forward. And if it doesn't want to come off, try to give this hose just a little spin to like break it loose from there, because sometimes the fluids will make it like create like almost like a glue. Okay, so there's one. And always try to keep this up, because there is fluid in there, and if you don't need to be doing your transmission fluid, there's no point. So keep that up, and then if you have a cap this. And the bottom one's a little easier because you're able to, the top one is at like a pretty extreme angle. So on the bottom one, you can actually lift this up out of here. Let's get this done first. And like I said, when you're moving these, just give these a little twist, and it'll free the line up very nicely. That way you don't break nothing. Same thing with the top one. And it also helps because if you were to take a pair of these channel locks, if you're going to take a pair of these channel locks and you're squeezing on that hose, this is metal under there and these are metal, so you're just going to rip the hose. So you're going to be buying yourself a new hose. It might be kind of hard, but just twist it, kind of work with it, bend it different ways, and it'll free up. So now the radiator is completely free, minus that one line down on the bottom. You're going to work the top of the radiator out, and then make sure it doesn't get caught on that line that we just pulled off. And you're going to pull it up a little bit, up and out. Alright, so now that we got the upper hose off, we were able to rotate the radiator forward, and you just grab your little power steering line clampy guys. I don't know the correct term of these, so don't roast me. They work for me and I like them. So pop that line off, and it is normal for a little fluid to come out. So you're going to grab your radiator and you're going to keep it upright because all of the openings are basically facing upwards, so you won't lose any fluid or you won't leak anything. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, you undo this little bit of the harness that wraps around on the core support, and the core support will be coming off. Alright, and then we'll unplug these horns. You ready? Are you ready? You ready for the moment of truth? There you go. And that right there is how you take off your core support for a G35 or G37 sedan.